I'm Victor Margiotta, and this is the Community Show. My guest tonight is Barry Muller. He is a retired veteran, and for all his years of service, I'm going to make him pesto. So we're making a little pesto with gavadil, which is a fresh pasta. That's why when you buy it in the supermarket, it's frozen because it's freshly made. So they have to freeze it. It's not a dry product. So we're going to make that. But I'm going to introduce Barry. Thank you, Barry, for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me, Victor.
All
Appreciate
right.
you inviting me.
And I want to thank you first off for serving this country and keeping us safe here.
Yep.
And I'd like to thank all the veterans out there. You know, if it wasn't for them,
Absolutely.
we wouldn't have the opportunities that we have in this country. And, you know, especially the World War II veterans, that a lot of them gave their lives for this country.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's a lot of heritage in the service. And first question I have for you is, how did you decide to go into the service?
Well, I graduated high school in 1987.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was either go off to college or join the military. And my dad was pushing me a little towards the military. He was in the Navy, I think from 1960 to 1962. And I thought about maybe trying out the Marines because I wanted to be a big tough guy. But my dad quickly said that idea was not too good. So we went and saw an Air Force recruiter, and right when I graduated in June, and in August I was on my way to San Antonio, Texas to basic training.
Wow.
So yeah, from 1987, and then I don't know what happened, but 21 years later, that's when I got out of the military. So it was pretty neat.
What was boot camp like?
Boot camp was definitely not what I expected. I grew up around here. I grew up in Montrose, and in 1987, you know, we were all long hair, rock and roll, and you know, running around, getting in trouble, stuff like that. So it was a good thing for me. Showed up to basic training with long hair, and they had a good time with that, boy, you know. But they shaved my head, and then it was all about teaching us discipline, teamwork, and then a history of the Air Force and kind of a lot of the rules and regulations about how to wear the uniform, marching, saluting, all these formations, and all that is designed to instill discipline and how, you know, following directions. And it was actually really good. It's exactly what I needed. And so 8 weeks later, after I graduated, I absolutely felt like a different person from going through, from the guy I was when I went in to 8 weeks later.
Yeah.
And I had a lot shorter hair too.
Yeah. How was the weather then? Was it hot?
Oh my goodness, yeah. I went to basic training, and still today is at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas.
Right.
And I entered the military on August 7th. And I remember getting down to Lackland Air Force Base in Texas, and it was about 104 degrees when we got down there. And they would wake us up with the reveille in the morning with the trumpet, and we were out there doing push-ups and sit-ups and running, and it was, even at 5 o'clock in the morning, it was in the 90s. So it was. I definitely slimmed down a little bit while I was in basic, you know.
Yeah.
But I was there for 8 weeks, like I said. Then I graduated basic training, and I got my job in the military, and I was assigned to be they call it an aircraft armament systems specialist, and in layman's terms, it's just a bomb loader. I loaded bombs on fighter jets, and our tech school was a base in Denver, Colorado, and so I went there for 4 months to learn how to do maintenance and load bombs on F-15s.
Well, the weather was a little cooler, huh?
Fantastic in Colorado. Yeah, it was really, really nice there. Beautiful state, yeah. That base isn't there anymore. They closed down the base. But I hear it's pretty neat. They had hangars and runways and all that. But two of the hangars, they turned into go-kart tracks.
Yeah.
And they like, you know, moved in and took over the base, and there's all businesses and all that stuff there now. So, but I've been.
So you never became a pilot, though?
No, never became a pilot. But I was actually pretty fortunate. I worked on 3 different types of aircraft. I worked on F-15s in Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, and the A through D model. And those are mostly air-to-air defense. They're the guys that go up and, you know, with just missiles and a gun, and they take care of any other jets that are out there, air-to-air. Then when I moved to England, I worked on what's called the F-15E, the Strike Eagle. And that one's designed, it carries bombs also. So it can go on bombing runs, but also it carries missiles for defense if it needs it. And then in northern Italy at Aviano Air Base, I worked on F-16s there. And that's a lot smaller jet, but it's mostly designed for quick bombing runs. It can fly really, really low, really fast to get into really remote places and stuff.
And it would fly under the radar. Right?
Oh, yeah, under the radar, through mountainous terrain and all that, you know. And I never did become a pilot, but I was fortunate to get, I got 2 incentive rides while I was in the Air Force. One was in Saudi Arabia and one was in England. And like if you win certain awards or, you know, do really well, they'll put you in the back seat of an airplane and take you up for a couple hours. And it was like nothing I ever experienced before, you know. We were doing 900 miles an hour and doing barrel rolls, and we would go from taking off up to 25,000 feet in about 14 seconds. So it's pretty cool. It was enjoyable. I had a good time while I was in.
All right, so pesto is basil, pine nuts, garlic, and when we start to cook it, I'm going to put it in the pan with some butter and some chicken stock. I already cooked the gabardine, so that's ready to go. So now 21 years in the military.
21 years.
And what's up with the rivalry between the Army and the Navy and the Air Force? Did you experience that, or?
I did sometimes. I'd experience it. Mostly when we deployed. When I was at the at our home station, like I said, it was at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, and that's close to Pensacola. It's on the Gulf Coast up there, and it's a huge, huge base. There was mostly Air Force guys on that base, so we didn't have any trouble. But overseas, they tend to house a lot of the military on the same base. So like at Aviano, when I was there in northern Italy, there was a detachment of Army guys that were stationed on the base. They were from the 173rd Airborne Brigade. They were down from Vicenza, Italy. But they were the parachute guys. They'd jump out of the airplane, parachute down, and go run in. But there was probably a few hundred of them on the base, and the Army always likes to goof on the Air Force a bit, you know. But we take it in stride, you know, because we know we're much smarter than them Army guys, so we don't let it bother us too much, you know.
Right.
But I got a funny story. My sister was in the Army, and we were both at a big exercise out in I forget where it was, some Fort Hood, Texas. We brought our F-15s in, and they brought their tanks in, the Army did. There was a couple thousand Army and a few thousand Air Force, and it was just a big, like, war games almost, like you see on TV.
Yeah.
But it was the first time, I hadn't seen my sister in about 3 years, and she called me up, and she was there with the Army, you know. And she said, why don't we get together and go out for dinner or something, you know? And I said, yeah, we'll go out for dinner, we'll get together. She said, well, let's meet tonight. She goes, I'll come by and get you. She goes, what tent are you in? And I said, tent? I said, I'm in the Air Force. We're staying at the Ramada. And that was the difference between the Air Force and the Army. We stayed in nice hotels.
So you could see why there might be a little tension.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Air Force, they all the services take really good care of their people, but I think the Air Force does a great job of it. So, that's why I'm really glad I joined the Air Force, you know. Right. It was nice, so.
Now you go to school now. What are you taking?
Yeah, right now I'm using my GI Bill benefits, which are fantastic. It's really good. The government set that up after every major conflict. After World War II, that's where, the greatest generation, when everybody came home from the war, what are these guys going to do? And the government helped pay to put them through college, and that's what built America kind of what it is today, you know? And they're doing the same thing today for the troops that are coming back. They give really fantastic benefits for education. I'm getting a bachelor's degree in business administration. I got 2 classes left.
Excellent.
And using the GI Bill, they pay for my school, they pay for the books, they give me some spending money, and it's working out really, really good. So 2 more classes, and I'll have a bachelor's degree. So
now, you were stationed in Italy. That reminds me, now they have to serve in the military for 2 years, everybody.
Yep.
What do you think if this country did that? Do you think it would be a good idea?
I know for me it was fantastic. It's exactly what I needed. As a 18-year-old kid that's kind of got no direction in life and, just running around the streets and not worried about anything. You think you're invincible when you're 18 years old, you know? And then you go off to the military and you learn some discipline and you see there's a whole big world out there, you know?
Sure.
The Italians, like you said, and a lot of European countries. I've been to Holland and France does it, Germany does it, a lot of different countries. When the kids turn 18, they finish high school. It's either go in the military for 2 years or do some kind of civil service for 3 years. And Italy, all the boys would go into the military, you know. And just recently, actually, they started letting the females go into the military. It used to be females had to do the community service thing.
Sure.
And at the base I was at in Italy, Aviano Air Base, there was loads of all the security guys were all these Italian kids, you know, that were in the military. Yeah. They're not as strict as we are, though, because they had beards, they could wear earrings in the uniform and all that. But not the Americans, you know. Yeah.
No, yeah.
But yeah, I think it would be fantastic just for kids to learn.
I think it is a good idea.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And then it gives you a chance to decide what you want to do. If a lot of times
Absolutely.
they go to college, they don't know what they want to do.
Yeah,
They spend all this money and
kids get, you know, they have a little job somewhere pumping gas or, you know, working wherever, and they're just not. Before you know it, you're 30 years old, and you know it's
time goes by so
fast. My 21 years in, I couldn't believe it how fast it went. You know,
it really does.
Yeah.
So let's start. I'm going to load up the food processor with the basil.
The basil smells lovely.
Oh, it smells. I'm going to put the pine nuts in. Won't go too crazy. Another thing I don't go crazy with is the garlic. A recipe calls for all this garlic, and I've had pesto with this much garlic, and it's just too strong. Mm-hmm. It just overpowers the flavor.
That's all.
And then you're tasting garlic for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to do half of what they tell you to put in there. So that's plenty of garlic. I'll start it off with some oil. This is virgin olive oil from Italy.
Good job.
We missed a piece. We'll get that in there. So I don't want the stem. I'm going to take that stem off of there. It'll make it too rough. We'll get that out of there. All right. And to start it off, we'll drizzle a little more oil in there. All right. Let's see what it looks like. We'll get our spatula. Oh, that looks pretty good. We'll let it go just a little more. So, what advice would you give some young people that are thinking about going into the service?
I actually was pretty fortunate. A few weeks ago, I met a kid who was at a coffee shop in Montrose, and he was getting ready to graduate, and I was telling him about my experience in the military, 21 years. And I was fortunate enough for 15 years, I lived in Europe. And thank goodness, while I was there, I took advantage of it, and I traveled. I had a motorcycle over there, a BMW motorcycle, and I did over 60,000 kilometers around Europe.
Oh my God.
I've been to Spain, Switzerland, France, all the way from England up to Ireland, Scotland.
It's almost
Poland.
like traveling around the United States.
It's fantastic. Right? Where I lived in northern Italy, if I went an hour north over the mountain, the Dolomites, the Italian Alps, I would be in Austria. Wow. If I went an hour east, I was in Croatia, which is beautiful beaches right on the Adriatic. Yeah. And about 3 hours east, northeast, I would be in Switzerland. So it's all Europe's really small compared to America, you know, but it's fantastic. You drive an hour away and it's, different language, different food, different architecture. Europe's fantastic. So I tell them, if you want a chance to travel and get paid for it, join the military. It's not too bad a deal, All
right, I'm going to make a little more noise here. All right, that looks like it's just about. Yep.
It's smelling better and better.
Yeah, we got enough oil. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to do is put some chicken stock. Get some butter. Looks like we got plenty of that. There's the butter. Okay, that looks good. I am going to spoon out some of the pesto. We'll get that right in there.
This was actually one of my favorite meals when I lived in Italy. Pesto is fantastic.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's funny. In Italy, that was hands down the nicest part about it was living over there, was going out for dinners and meeting Italians, going to eat at their house and all that. And it's what they say about Italians. Oh, unbelievable, yeah. And it's all about family and food and just having a nice time, Everything involves food. Right. You go to somebody's house for dinner, expect about a 5-hour excursion, It's not just sit down, eat, and run,
Well, I mean, to this day, I go home and my mother, what do you want to eat? What are you going to eat? You're going to eat? Ma, food, right? I'm not hungry. But what are you going to eat?
Absolutely, yeah. Always.
I love her, and she's the best. But you want a sandwich? You want me to make you something?
Constant eating, right?
It's all about food.
That's fantastic.
you know, growing up in the restaurant too, it's unbelievable. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's what
but
you need.
and that is the common denominator of everywhere. We all have to eat.
Absolutely. The
you know.
Italians take it to another level,
Yeah,
though.
they really do.
And it is
and they
so
talk about
good.
the Mediterranean diet, and this is it: the tomatoes
yep.
and the basil, and
The
the
olive oil,
olive
and the fresh
oil and
everything. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was really good.
I don't like a lot of butter, but this looks like it needs just a little more butter, so I'll put that in.
There you go.
Okay, and we'll let that
Yeah,
start
I was
to
fortunate
simmer.
to live downtown when I was there, and all the Italian houses have refrigerators that are half the size of American fridges. They're
Okay.
tiny little things.
Right.
Because the Italians, they go out and they buy fresh stuff every day. You go to the baker if you need bread. If you
Right,
need
right.
meat, you go to the butcher. You know, it's pretty neat. It's all really old school, you know, like you see in the movies and stuff.
Sure.
But it's a really nice way to live, you know.
Oh, without a doubt. Okay, so this is the gavadil. This is fresh pasta. So that's why you'll find this in the freezer section. I'm sure they have some dry gavadil, but it's not the same. It's just like if you get the tortellini. The tortellini's frozen.
The fresh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fresh pasta. Plus, it has the cheese in it, so it has to be frozen. And you know they do have a section in the refrigerated area, so that's got to be fresh. All right. That looks like just about enough, and I'm going to toss it. And this is where you put the cheese in. Also, we would put a little Romano cheese. Okay, so we'll let that simmer just a little bit more. Now you served during some of the conflicts,
Yep.
and how was that?
A lot of them.
Yeah.
That's one thing. If the military, if we were going to go to war, I wish we'd go in nice places, you know, like Barbados or something like that. But it never works out like that, you know. No, but since I went in 1987, and the first conflict I was involved with was Desert Shield,
Okay.
back when Iraq invaded Kuwait back in 1990.
Yeah.
And I remember I was just about 19 years old, and they were, you know, they were looking for volunteers. They said, we got to go to some crazy place called Saudi Arabia. I've never even heard of it before, you know.
Right.
And so I said, yeah, sure, I'll go check it out. They said maybe a couple, 2-3 weeks you'll be there, you know. 9 months later, we were still there, you know.
Yeah.
I went to Tabuk, Saudi Arabia, and it was a Saudi Arabia base, Arabian base that was right underneath the border of Iraq. It was about 50 miles from the border. But we were there for 9 months,
Yeah.
and then that's where all the conflicts kind of began. You know, after that, they had an Operation Northern Watch and Southern Watch, where they would keep an eye on Iraq after the Desert Shield was done, or
Yes.
Desert Storm. So I deployed to Turkey about 7 times. I went back to Saudi Arabia 8 times. I actually was in the same building in Dhahran that was blown up by that truck bomb in 1996. I knew some of the guys that were killed during that thing. I've been to Afghanistan, Iraq, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, all over the world, kind of anywhere there's a conflict where they bring, because nowadays it's a different type of war that we're fighting, you know, and when I loaded bombs on these airplanes, you know, laser guided, GPS guided, so they always bring the planes in, or drones now, and so it kept us really busy, but I'm really glad that I was able to be a part of that. You know, the teamwork and the camaraderie and the patriotism of the troops is fantastic. You know, the kids that are doing it today are really, really top-notch stuff. That you know, and my hat's off to them. They're just taking over from us guys. You know, we pass the baton down to them, and we're in good hands with those guys. So it's a good deal.
Sure is. All right, so I am just about done there, and that looks pretty good. We'll heat it up
smells
just.
really, really
yeah,
good,
it
man.
smells delicious. We'll just let it simmer just a little bit more. Oh, that looks good. Okay, let it simmer. All right, we got our basil. I'm gonna take the plate now, and we'll put it on the plate. I gotta say,
Smells like I'm in Italy, man.
oh,
Good job.
awesome,
Fantastic.
nice, fantastic,
Fantastico.
beautiful. All right, we gotta save some for the crew because I know they're gonna have a little, and then we just put a little basil on there like that, and that
Look at
is
It's beautiful.
our basil pesto.
Good job. That's fantastic.
Excellent. Now, you hear about a lot of military's guys suffering from, what do they call it, shell shock?
Yeah.
Now it's
PTSD. They
Yeah,
call it.
now what is it called?
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Now, do you feel like you've
I'm not for me so much. I think I was in the Air Force, and
Okay.
and you know, luckily for me, when you have airplanes that come in, they're $50 million each. These airplanes and all the tools and everything. So they always keep the aircraft way far away from the front line. You know, when I was in Afghanistan, I was in Kabul and Kandahar for about 6 months, and Kandahar was pretty rough.
Yeah.
There was always mortars coming in all the time, so we were always having to, we had to walk around with flak vests on and helmets and always go in these bunkers for, whenever the sirens went off. But I never did like the Army guys and the Marines that were kicking down doors and, doing actual combat out there, And those guys, I could absolutely understand. I've met a lot of them that's got to be really tough for
Sure.
mentally. And I've done when I lived in Europe, luckily I was really into World War II history. And I traveled to Normandy in France and Bastogne in Belgium where the Battle of the Bulge was. But I did a lot of reading about the soldiers in World War II. And the same thing happened when they came home from the war. After seeing some of the things you see in war, it really takes a big effect on you,
Yes.
Down in Montrose, there's a VA hospital
Right.
down there, and I've been fortunate to meet a lot of those guys and talk to them about different experiences and this and that. But it's something that's treatable, and hopefully, with everything that's been going on with the VA lately, that they'll really take care of the guys coming home, because it does take an effect on you.
Definitely. Now, you go to West Point at all?
Yeah. I go up there. Luckily, since I'm retired, I get medical coverage. That's where I go to see my doctor up there and go to the hospital. Actually, they got really good deals. A lot of places give big discounts for the military.
Excellent.
And I was fortunate. A friend of mine and his family were going to Disney World a couple months ago.
Yeah, that's right.
And there was a military discount that if you're retired or active duty, you got to go on base and sign up for this thing. But they give you, I think it was 6 tickets. Anyway, with bringing him and his family and everything, we saved about $1,000.
Awesome.
So it's really nice. A lot of these businesses and places give veterans big discounts, So I go up for there, see what's going on like that, and also we might be going up golfing on Thursday. There's a golf course.
I hear
up
there's
there.
a golf course.
Yeah, there is, and I hear you like golfing.
Oh,
so.
I like to golf.
And cook, golfing and
Yeah,
cooking. Right? There you go,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so Thursday we'll go up there, we'll check it out, and set up tea times tomorrow. I'll set up tea times, and I hear it's a really nice course, actually. It's beautiful up there at West Point. I was fortunate a few weeks ago to go up to see they did not the changing, but where the cadets march around in formation and all that, and it was really, really neat seeing, and that's the future of the military right there. They're just 19, 20-year-old kids that are, it takes a lot to get into West Point.
Yeah.
It's smart kids. And
I have a neighbor. I'll shout out to Bob Sincero.
There you go.
And congratulations. He graduated from
West Point.
From West Point,
That's
and
a
he's doing
big,
really
big
well.
deal. Absolutely. Yeah. So good for them. Yeah.
Now you hear, my whole idea of the show is to get people involved. I don't like, people complaining. My thing is, if you're going to complain about something, then do something about it. Get involved.
Yep.
Now, what are some of the things? I know they do a lot of things for the troops. They send over packages, care packages, and stuff like that. Now, have you heard anything that people can do locally?
They still the war is, as everyone knows, is winding down in Iraq.
Yeah.
We took the troops out of there. There's still a lot of people. I think 30 or 40,000 troops still over in Afghanistan, and I know it was fantastic. I was there for about 7 months, and the biggest thing everybody looked forward to was mail call. When mail would come in, especially if you got a package. And I don't know. There's loads of programs out there. I know if you look online to support the troops, just type that into Google, supporting the troops or something like that. I know Wounded Warrior Project's got a lot of things going on, but they can maybe just donating, phone cards or toiletries and stuff like that, and it goes to good use over there. When I was there, in Afghanistan, I was fortunate. People were sending over backpacks and like school supplies and stuff for the Afghanistan kids.
Right.
And we were able to take a trip. We had to go with armed guards and all that, but we went down into a village right outside of Kandahar, and gave the kids, you know, backpacks and coloring books. And these kids, they lived in like mud huts. They never seen a PlayStation. They didn't know what a cell phone was, anything, you know. So we're really fortunate over here how much, you know, what we have compared to other parts of the world, you know.
Right.
But if people want to, you know, support the troops, they could look online, and there's plenty of stuff. And even in the local communities, the guys coming home, you know, just it's nice to get, you know, not that I expected anything, but a lot of people just say thanks, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, I always think of it. It was my pleasure, you know. It was nice to do that, and so yeah, just a little thanks is really good.
Yeah.
So.
And I want to say thanks again, you know, and to all the troops. You know, it's this country. You were over in Europe. How much more now do you appreciate this country?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
You know,
Especially
Europe's got a lot of charm. It's got a lot of
yeah,
history. But
absolutely.
this
But
country,
there's
you
nothing
know,
like
there's
America.
nothing,
I
you
tell
know.
you what, it is the greatest place on earth.
Yeah.
And I've been to a lot of places all over the world, and yeah, hands down, America's A-OK, man.
Yeah,
You know?
it is. And I think people need to appreciate it more, and they need to get involved.
Exactly.
I think we need to do something about government. I think government's too big, and I think people should get involved and vote.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, don't complain. I know you know, as Americans, we work all the time, and it seems like we don't have time to get involved.
Yeah.
But you can't use that excuse. You have
You
to
got to
do
find
something.
time to do something.
Got to
Yeah,
find
yeah.
time.
Find
you know?
something you're passionate about, you know, and then just and do something, you know, and help out, like you said, you know.
Yeah.
And I found over in Europe, I was fortunate to have a lot of friends that were involved in really good causes, you know, whether it's, you know, helping animals or homeless people or whatever it might be.
Sure.
And if you got a purpose in your life and you work, you know, to do that, it makes you a
smile,
better person.
yeah.
Absolutely.
It's good for the soul. It's
Absolutely.
good for your
Makes you-
attitude.
Yep. It gives you a purpose in life, you know, and
Yeah.
it's not just all
Right.
about PlayStation and a nice car and a big
yeah.
TV and stuff like that,
Right.
you know. And you really notice that in Europe. So, yeah, hopefully people watch this show and you
Yeah.
make a change, right?
Well, that's it. Get involved.
There you go.
You know, support the troops. There's so many different aspects you can get involved in. The fire department, in the church.
In the communities, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Join the any club. So we just have 1 minute left, and I want to thank the crew, Kaz, Jim. Thanks so much. Thank you for the fork. There you go. You get to try your.
We'll get to try
yeah,
the fancy pesto. We'll
that's
see how it is here.
And I'm Victor Margiotta. This is the Community Show. Thank you for watching.
Buonissimo.
Good.
Buonissimo.
Oh,
Fantastico.
excellent. Not too much garlic, right?
Perfect amount. That's
All right.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Just like
that's-
Italy. You've done good. Fantastic.
Great.
That's all for
All right,
me.
yeah, it's all yours.
All right, all right.
All right. Thanks for watching. All
Thanks.
right.
Thank you.
Beautiful. All right.